The 2022 budget proposal.
And thank you very much, distinguished Chair. Because we are on the first line charge, along with the National Assembly and the Judiciary, we have an allocation this year of 140 million. It's just billion. It's just one line, 140 billion. No indication which component is for operational cost as a commission and other activities for 2022, and no indication that whatever the balance is towards the 2023 general election. So we take it that it's our duty to break it down and to present to the National Assembly.
Yes.
So because for the last 3 years, the allocation for regular budget has been 40 billion. We decided that we'll take 40 billion for our 2022 regular budget as an agency of government, payment of salaries, overhead, and some elections, particularly small by-elections. And then 100 billion towards our preparations for the 2023 general election. So that's what we have done. We have 40 billion as our regular budget, and then we have another proposal of 100 billion to enable us prepare for the 2023 general election. As I said, neither the 100 billion for general election nor the 40 billion for regular activities of the commission is adequate. That's the truth. So we have an envelope. We can't go outside the envelope. So we broke it down as much as we can, but there are some activities that we are supposed to undertake next year that we simply cannot accommodate in the 40 billion. So we transferred these activities to the 100 billion. When I present the 100 billion, I will explain. For instance, we have two major governorship elections next year, Ekiti and Osun. Ekiti in June, Osun in July. The 40 billion can accommodate our activities, including the unforeseen by-elections, including the 6 outstanding right now, as well as the Ekiti and Osun governorship elections. Since the allocation is for our activities generally, and our activities is basically electoral, we decided to transfer the requirements for Ekiti and Osun to the 100 billion. So we have 40 billion as our regular intervention budget. We have 100 billion as the first tranche for our preparations for the 2023 general elections. So, Mr. Chairman, with your kind permission, let me present the regular budget, the 2022. Statutory budget in 2021, the total amount under personnel was 23.2 billion, but we are proposing to spend 23.5 billion in 2022. And why is the reason for the difference? Promotions. Once you promote, there will be consequential increases in salaries. And then there is also annual salary increments for those who are not promoted. Is the practice and the service. So the amount accommodates or takes care of these. And we have given the detailed breakdown, including the social contributions. As you can see, as the personnel cost rises, the requirement for national health insurance social contribution also rises. That's why you see on choose 10301 under the National Health Insurance Scheme. Last year, it was 964.8. This time around is 972. The marginal increase reflects the increase in salaries. So too, other activities in that regard. Overhead last year was 2.4. This year is slightly down at 2.3 because we believe that some of the activities can be accommodated in the under the 100 billion and more that we expect for the conduct of the 2023 general election. But again, I will come back to that when I present the budget for the general election. So we have the local travels, others, international travels, we have made no provision for it at all. Because when we present the election budget, you can also see what we have proposed for international travels, necessary international travels as we prepare for the 2023 general elections. Climate, people perhaps consider it more remain in their comfort zones than go to new locations, even though the new locations may be closer to their places of domicile. So we need to ramp up on voter education and publicity. And then the new innovations we have introduced. We also need a lot of voter education in that respect. Under electoral recurrent, we have earmarked proposed the sum of 1,086 million. The Commission Secretariat Support Services, 754 million. We need to do a lot in engaging with our staff in particular. We make policy at the national level, they implement policy at state and local government level. Sometimes we see this little bit of the link between what we do at the headquarters and what they do at state level. So we need whatever we are doing at state level to translate into action, particularly at state level. So we need to also engage more with our own staff. Then we are proposing 331 million for insurance against fire, electoral violence, and malicious damages. I know that we insure all our facilities, but the more facilities we have, the more the cost of insurance, and the more we have to respond. Is the law that we have to insure all public properties, including the lives of our officials. Then ICT technology expenses is in two parts. There is the soft part, security on all the mobile IBED devices, and upgrade of the apps is 765 million. Then the equipment we require for transmission of election results, which has not been provided in the amendment bill. We now have to go beyond what we are doing using the IRF portal, because the IRF portal is only for public view. It's not for the purpose of collation and declaration of winners. But if the National Assembly grants us the powers to not transmit for the purpose of collation and declaration, we have to make provision for that. Then we have to print the permanent voters' cards. Again, Mr. Chairman, 3 billion to print the cards. It may look big, but in the context of Nigeria, it's actually not. And it may interest members of the committee to note that with 84 million registered voters, 84 million in Nigeria registered voters, as of today, we have not added those who have registered at the beginning of this registration, continuous registration exercise, and then those that will register to the end of the exercise. At 84 million, Nigeria has more registered voters than the other 14 countries in West Africa combined. All the other 14 countries in West Africa have 73.6 million registered voters. Nigeria has 84 million as of today, 11 million more. So each time Nigeria conducts an election, it's like conducting an election for the whole of West Africa. It's a huge, huge undertaking. As I told the committee before, when we briefed you about our preparations for the Anambra election, take Anambra State, 2.5 million registered voters. It may look small in Nigeria, but it has more registered voters than the Republic of Liberia. So it's like conducting elections for Liberia. Anambra has more registered voters than Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, and Cape Verde put together. So it's like conducting elections in 3 countries. Nigeria is simply enormous. So the costs must also reflect the reality. Our good fortune is actually our population and size. As I round up, Mr. Chairman, we go to enrollment device. The enrollment of under 230810, there are some peripherals that we have to add to the enrollment device for the purpose of voter registration, particularly because we are devolving to more centers before the 2023 general elections. But the biggest cost of all is the accreditation device, which is 55.3 billion, which is basically a little under 50% of the total requirement. We have we have to buy 200,000 devices. We have 176,842 polling units. Each polling unit will have a device. And then we have to have 10% extra in case of malfunction or glitches. So if we have about 180,000 polling units, 10% of it will come to 16,000 or 18,000. So we make provision for additional 20,000 to be on the safe side, because it's technology, there will be glitches. Some people must therefore respond quickly to those glitches. So we are earmarking the sum of 55.3 for only the first tranche. We will require more for the polling, to cover all the polling units. Ballot boxes, we must acquire additional ballot boxes for the election. We simply must. We have lost so many ballot boxes to electoral violence during elections, to the conduct of party primaries by political parties. They borrow our boxes. The boxes don't come back. In Anambra, for instance, we lost all the ballot boxes and voting cubicles following the attack on our office in May. So for the election, we are fortunate it's an off-season election. So we relied on our resources from the neighboring Delta and Imo states. So all the ballot boxes to be used tomorrow in Anambra came from Delta and Imo states. But in a general election, all states must rely on their own resources. You have nowhere to borrow from. So we have to have the ballot boxes. And I keep saying that all honorable members and distinguished senators are auditors in our work, because you all go and vote on election day. And I haven't had any one of you say that you saw Bako Super Sack at the polling unit instead of ballot box. There will always be ballot boxes. There will always be voting cubicles. There will always be staff of the commission. There will always be ballot papers. There will always be all the non-sensitive materials. There will be COVID facilities. And then we have to arrange the logistics to deliver them to all locations. Even in wartime, no war affects all parts of any country. But on election, all the polling units in this country must open at 8:30 on the dot. That's the policy. And must close by 2:30. And if people stroll to the polling units and they don't see INEC officials or they don't see facilities, so INEC once again, logistics problem. Not knowing what we are going through to get to those polling units, irrespective of how remote these polling units are. I like some of the comments.
But you have seen,
I like the chairman's.
You have seen one of the commissioners.
I like the chairman's question because it's the exact opposite of the other questions asked. This not over expenditure. It's no expenditure at all and the money is there. So okay. Mr. Chairman, I think let's come back to this issue of over expenditure. We have been in this for a long time. There was a year, I think it must have been 2006 or so, the commission presented a budget with miscellaneous. The committee at that time advised the commission not to have any miscellaneous. So we dropped that provision from the budget. That was advised by the committee. We dropped it. So we budgeted on the basis of what is available, line by line. Now the second question asked is why we have, say, electoral expenditure under which you have conduct of polls, you have electoral administration. Basically what this budget is doing is following the accounting chart. The lines come from the office of the Accountant General of the Federation. So you see, we have to reflect some of the lines, including foreign service allowance, and we're not the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But under that you will see 000. So I've been asking, can we get out of that accounting chart? They said that we must follow the accounting chart. So in other words, we must reflect it and then reflect the expenditure. On the issue of the arrest by Honorable Adbedi, we have been discussing this over and over and over. In my previous life, as an executive of a federal government agency, we discussed this matter, that all funds due to the Consolidated Revenue Fund must be appropriated by the National Assembly. But that section of the Constitution has proviso in bracket, except special funds established by an act of the National Assembly. Example is the Tertiary Education Trust Fund. The budget doesn't come to the National Assembly because it's deemed to be appropriated by the Board of Trustees. And therefore there is a sharing formula in the act. And for that reason the money doesn't even go to the CRF. It's collected in the education pool account and transferred into their operational account. I'm sure there are other accounts like that. And that's why in realization of this difficulty of the Commission, the National Assembly approved the establishment of the INEC fund. And this National Assembly has even gone a step beyond that to say that all money for elections should be released to the Commission at least 1 year to the election. So it's a realization of this issue that we have been discussing over and over for a long time. I look forward to the time perhaps when outside budget defense, when we can find time, as we have done on other issues with the Joint Committee, to thoroughly discuss this matter in the interest of our democracy. The independence of INEC is actually meaningless without financial independence. That's the reality. And there are pressures that are real on us, and there are constitutional pressures. This activity must be held within this time frame, irrespective of whether there is money for that or there is not. So we just have to find a way, probably outside this issue that we have been discussing year in, year out, to find a solution to this issue of funding for the commission.
And I think we'll address this issue.